with that said, we're going to jump straight into our first discussion this hour. I'm going to hand over to Mwikali right now to tell us about this painter who's managed to turn his passion into profit.
Well, I'm super excited because I love art. Totally love art. And having to meet this particular Kenyan who has turned his passion into profit as an oil painter who specializes in realism and has been doing this from 2014. Guys, I give you Clever Zathiambo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. I see your hands and looks like you've been working overnight or in the morning.
Yes,
Have you?
Yes, I always work at night.
Always?
Yes, I always do. Then during the days when I do other things, like I'm a student, so I go to classes during the day. That's when I do my meetings, sleeping, everything else. But at night is work.
The whole night?
Yes, about 7 hours.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's super interesting. But you say you're in school. What are you studying and what school are you going to?
I'm a design student at the University of Nairobi.
Okay.
I'm now in the first year of my master's. So I've been an undergrad student since 2014, which is about the same time I became a professional artist.
Okay.
And now I'm in the second phase of my university education.
That's interesting that you mentioned professional artwork started
Yes.
in 2014.
Yes.
But what happened before that? At what point did you realize that, this is what I want to do and pursue to the end?
Yeah, I started doing it in 2009, which was a bit late because I was 14. Most artists start painting or drawing or whatever other craft they do when they are really way younger than that.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2009, when I was in Form 1 is when I started drawing, and I was in a school that happened to be that happened to have a lot of bullying.
Oh.
So I was moved to a different school. Now the first school where I was didn't have art and design as a course, as a subject, but the second school did. So that's when I joined the art class somehow, and that's when I started learning how to paint with watercolors and how to perfect my skills as an artist in general.
Is it true that you were tricked into joining art class when you were in Form 2? That it wasn't like naturally I'm choosing this, but somehow you found yourself in that particular class and then your passion began from there?
Yes, it is.
What happened?
Yes, it so happened that I was both computer illiterate, and I also had this skill that I didn't know I could make into something big.
Okay.
So when I joined this new school it's in Machakos, it's called Kabah High School.
Mm-hmm.
When I joined Kabah High School, I had there were 4 options for the what they call the Group 4 subjects. There was business education, agriculture, art and design, and computer studies. So since I didn't know anything about computers, I joined the computer class, it so happened that the first 2 assignments were about, say, take this paragraph and find a way to render it using this certain software artistically.
Yeah.
And so I do these 2 assignments, and the teacher somehow notices that there's something special in this student. So the computer teacher speaks to the art teacher and tells him that he thinks there's a student who is in the wrong class. And together they call my mother. Completely, I had no idea. So the next week when I walk into class, I'm told, you don't belong here, you should go to the art class. I didn't know when or how this decision was made. And that's how I ended up in the art class. So later on I tried to talk to my mother. I asked her what happened and how I ended up there, and she was like, there's no way out. The teachers are convinced this is what you should be doing. So it was a fortunate accident in that if the teachers weren't observant enough to see that in me, I wouldn't have ended up being an artist.
My goodness, look at you now.
Thank
Then when you get into art, there's so many different kinds of art that you would have pursued. It could have been just charcoal or pencil.
Yeah.
Or I see people are doing with the biros now, but you chose oil painting and you chose realism.
Yeah.
Why those 2 choices?
Well, as it turns out, like I said, my background as an artist is purely academic.
Yes.
And when I joined this school in Form 2, we were being taught a lot about art history and the different styles of art that are practiced mostly in Europe and that were practiced like 600 years ago. And when you learn about, when the first kind of artists you learn about are people like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Caravaggio, who all happen to be mostly sculptors and painters and stuff. It was kind of natural that kind of art that I was learning about is what I would have wanted to do myself. So that's how I got into painting and into realism bit by bit.
That's interesting.
Yes.
But you see, it's one thing to do it in school, but to get out of school and decide that I will pursue this. This
Yeah.
is what I decide to do, and you enroll in university and go ahead to pursue that.
Yeah.
Did you have anyone holding your hand? Did you consult other painters in the industry? How did you come about this decision?
Well, it was well in high school. I used to do drawings and sell them for like 50 bob to teachers.
50 bob.
Yeah. Those I used to make my pocket money when I was in between Form 3 and Form 4.
Okay.
So I used to do like if I do 10 or 5 drawings every week, that's 250 shillings, which is a lot of money if you're in high school.
Yeah.
So even when I moved out of high school, I had already known that it's something that I can actually make money in if I do it the right way and if I learn about how to market it. So it wasn't that difficult a progression to move from just being a student who likes to paint and from to somebody who does it professionally. Then, as it happened, I joined the University of Nairobi Design School.
Yeah.
Now, design and art happen to be quite related fields. So the education also helped a lot in that I could pick some of the skills I learned as a designer and apply them to my craft as an artist. And the other way around in that I make my designs artistically as well. So it was the whole thing was kind of set up
Okay.
such that I had everything taken care of in that I try to learn as much as I can about this. So it's not just a skill that I have. I know about the history, I know how to market, and I also look up to artists who know how to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that you talk about marketing, you mentioned that your first piece you sold for 50 shillings.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it was really tiny. And you
Yes.
brought pieces here in studio today. Maybe you can just bring them out so that we can show our audience what
Right.
it is you're doing from 50 bob to which. Are you going to tell us?
No. Okay, so this.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just
Maybe
a minute.
I can hold this over here,
Yeah,
and
just
then
hold
we
that.
can
I'll bring the other one.
bring the other one. And those elephants are beautiful.
Thank you.
They are beautiful. Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell me about this?
Yeah, sure. Now these 2 paintings are part of the new series I'm working on. I normally paint in series. I don't paint isolated paintings.
Pieces.
Yeah. I normally work in series. A series is more like, in music it would be like an album.
Yeah.
A collection of 10, 12,
Do you name them?
15, yes I do.
Okay.
Paintings that have a common theme that unites each one of them.
Okay.
All of them, sorry. So for this series, I'm painting. If you look at my artworks before this series, most of them are portraits, and most of them happen to be portraits. But for this series, I'm trying to paint stories. So each painting tells a story that's deeper than just a well-painted face.
Okay.
So this series is inspired by Caravaggio's work. Caravaggio is one of the artists I learned about and my favorite painter of all time.
Yeah.
And what I picked from him for this series is his ability to use realism to create narrative paintings.
Okay.
So, like for these 2 paintings, the one you're holding is talking about poaching.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can see that.
There you have someone who looks well trimmed, like probably a well-educated person, maybe to represent maybe a country that's not completely ignorant of the dangers of poaching,
Yeah.
but they
still.
they do it. And what I'm trying to portray there is like as educated as these people are, they're kind of idiots in that you're cutting the branch on which you're sitting, the trunk on which you're sitting in this case. it's what supports you. So like for Kenya, or for most African countries, tourism and wildlife is one of our major, one of the major reasons why other people come here.
Absolutely.
You know, one of our major sources of heritage and income and job creation
But
as
we're
well.
still doing this to our
Yeah,
animals, which,
yeah,
is,
sure,
which
yeah.
is really our heritage in particular. And that particular one?
Yeah, this piece is called Footprints. It's about, this is about pollution though.
Yes.
You can see 4 different animals. It's a, you know, this is called surrealism. It's a branch of realism, whereby you, both two are kind of surrealistic in that
yeah.
you can't really find somebody sitting on the trunk of an elephant, or you can't see a penguin in the savannah or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to portray like a message whereby as animals go extinct over time, you know, they leave the plankton, others leave just the bones and everything, but it will happen over time that what we will leave as humans is going to be plastic. So that's what I'm trying to talk
The
about.
trail of the man walking away.
Yes, this is what we live.
Absolutely.
So
This is a lot of work. How much time does it take to just put one piece together?
well, the actual painting, the actual process of putting the painting on canvas takes about between a week and 2,
Okay.
depending on the size, because most of the paintings I do are way bigger than this. So a piece this size will take, say, a week. If it's bigger, it will take maybe 10 days or 2 weeks. But there's a process that comes before that. Like for this series, I have to sketch each and every idea. Like, would it work better if that man is seated on the trunk of this other elephant? How can I raise the what's the name of this thing? The whatever that thing of that elephant. How can I? What kind of a sky should I put there? Is it better
So
if I
all
make
of
it
that
night?
you do
So-
before you start
Yes,
the actual
yes.
thing, which is
Yeah.
a lot of work. And
is.
looking at the market in the scene right now in Kenya, and I don't know
Yes.
if you do locally or you've gotten to a point where you're also exporting your work.
Okay.
But how is it? How's the market? Is it? Do you pay your school fees off this?
I pay everything.
Off this?
Yes, everything.
That means it's not 50 bob now.
Yeah, sure, it's not.
So what's the range?
Well,
I threw that one in.
yeah, well, the range is between, right now it's between 50,000 for pieces that are, say, half of that size to,
Okay.
if it's really massive, it can get up to, say, 300,000, or others go even more than that. Yeah. Wow. That's the current range, but yeah.
Are you mentoring any young artists in this? Are there people who are walking this journey with you, or who you're holding their hands?
Randomly, of course, there are artists who will always ask for tips about painting. Hey, what's the what kind of paint should I use for this artwork, or what do you think about what I just did? And since I've done this for a while and I've done quite a number of paintings, I kind of have some insight, especially into oil painting. So of course, I get questions all the time about oil painting, and I'm
Willing
always,
to
yeah.
help and answer.
And also, I happen to have a YouTube page where I as I paint this, I normally shoot my time-lapse videos. So on YouTube, I post them. So there are other people who I probably teach without my knowledge, because they just see the videos or what I post on social media, and they learn from that.
Great.
Yeah.
A final question. What is the YouTube the YouTube page? What's the name of the page?
I'm Clevers Odhiambo on all platforms.
Okay, perfect. Final question before we come to the end of this particular segment. Who inspires you most? I know you've talked about Da Vinci and the rest, but
Yeah.
locally, internationally, people who are existing,
Yes.
who inspires you the most?
Well, it's not one particular person.
Okay.
Like I said, I work in series, so depending on the series I'm doing, I'll have a different source of inspiration. So I've done about 4 series at this point. Wow. And every one of them has had their own artist or photographer who inspired them. So I'll just mention them real quick. The first series I did from 2014 to 2015 was called the Red Series. This was a bunch. This was a collection of about 12 paintings that was based on the color red. This was inspired by Pablo Picasso's Blue series, which he did a number of sad paintings. It was a dark moment in his life. So that was the inspiration for that series. Then the next series I did, 2015 to 2016, was cultural series.
Okay.
I did about 14 or 15 paintings about East and Central African tribes and
wow.
cultures.
That's interesting.
Yeah, this is sold out at this point.
Okay.
The inspiration for that series, that specific series, was an artist called Howard Tapning, who is an American artist. He's in his 90s at this point.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
now,
the third
the
series?
third series I did was portrait, just pure portraits. I traveled around the country between 2017 and 2018 taking pictures of
Oh, that's
people.
what you were talking about earlier. The series
Yes.
that was both before this was
Yes,
just portraits.
that was right before this. This was inspired by a Kenyan photographer, Kev Bo.
Ah, yeah.
You know Bo Art?
Yes.
Yes, Bo Art inspired that one, and another painter from Mexico. I can't even remember the name. Then now this series is inspired by Caravaggio,
Ah, perfect.
the Italian painter.
Yes, you talked about that earlier.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
You're
It's
welcome.
been amazing. We've been talking to Clevis Odhiambo, the gentleman who turned 50 bob into thousands and hundreds of thousands of shillings. This is Full Circle with Joyce, and Joyce will be back after this short commercial break with Mercy Masika, so do not go too far.